we start with the first roundtable, which is going to be about agriculture, knowledge, innovation systems. So, as you know, knowledge and innovation are essential for a smart, resilient, and sustainable agricultural sector. The Common Agricultural Policy CAP of the future will both encourage increased investment in research and innovation and enable farmers and rural communities to benefit from it. Therefore, it is essential to build stronger agricultural knowledge and innovation systems to boost the initiation and development of innovation projects, disseminate their results, and use them as widely as possible. To talk about it, we have 4 speakers today: Simona Cristiano from CREA, Council for Agriculture Research and Economics, Center for Policies and Bioeconomy; Mark Gibson from the Agriculture and Food Development Authority of Ireland; Almudena Justo from the Galician Enterprise University Foundation, FEUGA; and Inge van Oost, Policy Officer Research, Innovation and AKIS Knowledge Exchange from the European Commission. So welcome you for, thank you very much for being with us today. We will start listening to our keynote speaker for this topic this morning, Inge van Oost from the European Commission. So hello again, whenever you want. You have to switch off your camera and your microphone. Thank you.
Now, I told you the basics this morning about AKIS strategies, and now I have just a few slides to tell you how member states are working with it, what we already see in the CAP plans that are coming in. As I told you, we are getting informal draft CAP plans, and the main action points that member states put in them is, of course, the things that are obligatory, impartial advisors, researchers, and CAP networks that improve their collaboration. And we also, that's something we asked, need an AKIS coordination body at national level that hopefully is helped by a number of AKIS platforms or networks in the regions or even more locally to drive the transition. For us, this AKIS coordination body is the contact point to talk, but we also expect that it is the person or the unit that drives the transition to this AKIS strategy within the country, and with all actors involved. Now, what do we see about advisors? There's a lot of efforts to make advisors more competent by interaction events, by training on, as is obligatory, the broader economic, environmental, and social issues. So definitely they go above what was before only cross-compliance. And also this knowledge and innovation is much more visible in what advisors will need to learn and how they will interact. The system that we had to fund advisors was quite complicated with public procurement and with the certification systems, minimum capacity, minimum experience, etc. We skipped those rules now. There's no more rules on certification and public procurement, which means that somebody who is just getting knowledgeable on a certain subject, for instance, because he or she was in an operational group and learned a lot about a certain topic, can be now also an advisor to other people. And we have, for instance, an example in an Italian operational group where one of the 2 farmers' brothers is now on the farm, but also at the same time helping the rest of the farmers in the group of 30 farmers with their logistics and their digital tools, skills for short supply chains. We see that instead of certification, now we move more to transparency, so showing the advisors or technicians, as you say, via public website, showing what they have as capacities, what is their experience, did they join operational groups, what is their CV, so that farmers have a free choice and have the knowledge to do that choice. and also to give more power to the farmers themselves to choose their advisors, instead of we have to, because of WTO rules, pay to the advisory body, but member states are making systems with vouchers so that they can give like a check to the farmer, with which then they can buy knowledge or advice. Everybody, of course, must respect that these member states, that these advisors are impartial. That's an obligation. They are organizing now also innovation support services in all kinds of formats, dedicated one and only innovation hubs, or mixed systems with the sectorial applied research stations, often in an important role, because they were used to have advisors there with them, or they gave already advice. So they can quickly make the move also to innovation support. But then for the cross-cutting issues that are not very sectorial, you see that there's more specific dedicated innovation support services coming. And also these advisory networks now, they bring information in. The first one is on advisory digital tools. And we see that also those are now used, and we hope that for our future EU advisory networks under Horizon Europe, that this also will help the member states to become more knowledgeable in certain specific topics. So the old system is abolished. The farm advisory system is the AKIS system that really organizes how advice is given. So we see that also being described in the CAP plans. And it's very clear from the regulation and the recitals in particular that we are looking to advisors that are really on the farm with the farmer, giving a holistic and also an interactive, not a one direction, but listening to the farmer and really discussing what would be the best solution for his farm coming in. And also this mobility budget that advisors can get, and that's not a big sum. They get a bit of money to cover their travel and accommodation for a few days to go abroad and to learn from their colleagues' advisors. And here also through the advisory networks, they will get to know these colleagues' advisors in other countries. So this brings a lot of EU added value to be able to learn from other countries how things work there, and then to apply it in your own country. Then with regard to researchers, they are of course more closely involved in the AKIS, and the rewards, I think there's still room for improvement. I think there's still a little bit a mindset that needs to be changed. But if I listen to this morning, I mean, I feel that it's already coming. Typically, Spain is also quite ahead to have partnership agreements between the Agriculture Ministry and the Research Ministry. Yeah? That's not the case with all countries yet. So they agree on how they can reward and how research can better interact with practice. Researchers help to join multi-actor activities, often in demo activities. We see them a lot, and also some publications for practice and helping the specialist advisors in the back offices. Then the CAP networks, they do more or less as we said this morning, try to provide for more learning and activities, filtering and translating from all these projects that they have, and ensuring also knowledge exchange among member states. Why? Because now we have cross-border operational groups. So it's important really to know which operational groups do what in the other countries. And that's exactly the knowledge that the CAP networks have and that they can work with. They continue as they already did, sometimes very well. We have great examples already of knowledge event between the AKIS actors. What is still not visible enough, I think, in the CAP plans that we see is these linkages between operational group and Horizon projects. So the Horizon NCPs and also the CAP network should work more together. We don't see this really, maybe they intend to do it, but they don't put it in the CAP plan. So we don't see everything in the CAP plan. And then overall, they foster innovation and they promote the outcomes and also support operational groups, not in an individual way as an innovation support center, but they do direct them to the right people and give this more general support to operational groups. Then with regard to operational groups, we see clearly that to the example of some of the countries that did it in this period, that we will have more operational groups. Already the plan of 3,200 now has become 4,000 planned operational groups. It's a bit logic because now the EIP can cover all these 9 CAP specific objectives. So there's much more to do if you want. And typically, and we're very happy with that, they mix bottom-up calls. So anybody with a new idea can now be helped with these innovation support services to develop and to find the right experts to help to find the solution. And I was looking to the presentation of what Fioga is doing, and it's a bit that's what I'm trying to say. So helping individual ideas to grow into, to find the right partners and to grow into a very good proposal. And it's not just that the member states have only these bottom-up calls, but they mix it with thematic calls on certain subjects that they think there is a need. Is there a specific environmental challenge? They want to act on climate change or on organic or whatever. They add specific calls for those purposes. Also on digital tools, there's a lot of piloting on social innovation that has been long a bit lost. And now we see that like care farming or projects to support farmers who are a bit in difficulties or on the crossroads and need a bit of reshaping of their business schemes, that also their operational groups work, which means that you get, in a way, a family of EIP calls. So a variety, big ones, small ones, bottom-up, thematic ones, and even cross-border operational groups are planned. This is a challenge still because, as I said, you need to know where the others are. Same thing, by the way, for our multi-actor thematic network, where you also work with operational groups from other countries. So it's very important to make sure that you have good connections with the other CAP networks to find them. And this new collaboration, we didn't have that, but under the CAP network money, now existing operational groups can profit from a few meetings together. And also from this, the possibility to make cross-border or to make certain operational groups work together is something that can be funded. And then last but not least, in a globally more commercialized world full of public good related challenges, it's important to protect our public knowledge and the knowledge flows. And for that, you just need enough budget, a sufficient financial envelope. And that's one of our indicators, by the way. Our impact indicator is about the budget going to knowledge and innovation. And that's also a big point of discussion. We see that in the first drafts, sometimes there is too little. And then once we explain, our AKIS tool was only released end of September. So we see now in October, more and more ideas coming in and more activities and budget going into this AKIS strategic approach. We see also emerging knowledge reservoirs. I already mentioned that. National thematic networks, public back offices where specialist advisors can help their colleagues who are on the road, and they closely interact then with field advisors and with research and with the CAP networks where they get their knowledge in order to be able to help their colleagues on the road. Also at national level, we see advisory networks coming, advisors working more together, not as a body, not in a systematic legal entity, let's call it, but just doing regular meetings every 2-3 years and putting interesting themes and inviting interesting experts. That's also something that's coming up. And then digital advisory tools that might be shared even beyond the borders. Picking up and Fair Share, our project under Horizon 2020, is a very good way to do so, to learn what is used in other countries and then to adapt it to your own country. Then the usual face-to-face multi-actor thematic events. I remember when I started in 2007, was it, that I was invited to Barcelona to have such a multi-actor thematic event. The researchers, the advisors, the farmers were there, and they were talking about what are the needs and what can research offer. So nothing new under the sun, just that we want to mainstream this now and want to see everybody doing this. On-farm demonstrations also, it's nothing new, but it's important to do more and to invite more people along an operational group project. It's not enough to have just at the end to show the results, but also in between, people want to follow this. We saw from one of our studies that around an operational group with maybe maximum 10 farmers in, there was another circle, a third circle outside the group of other farmers that peer-to-peer want to learn from what's happening in the group. So it's super important, and some have even a dedicated communication budget for that foreseen, to have this open way of working, let's say. And then also this co-location of research, advice, networks, education, etc. is slowly, a little bit too slowly, because I think this is super easy, cheap, but of course it also means that you move people, and that's maybe not done in a day. Last slide is to explain all the advantages, because we have a lot of extra advantages if you compare it with the former period. The first one I don't need to repeat. Farm advice, I've spoken enough about that. Knowledge exchange, I think we have there in our article, it was called first 72, now it is renumbered. I think it's 77, but I didn't see the last version. So, but we have there one article that can fund, let's say, almost everything, any kind of knowledge exchange and information. So that's advice, demo, training, thematic or cross-sectorial events, mobility budgets, as I mentioned before. So it can fund almost whatever you think about that can help for a good AKIS strategic approach to improve the knowledge flows. Then we have this obligation now for innovation support. That's really for individual ideas. It's not general awareness raising meetings. No, this is really standing by the one with the idea and helping him to find, him or her to find people who are competent in that subject to help them to develop into an operational group. And I think Spain had this step one already in this period, so you're very knowledgeable about it. In fact, you have already more than 800 operational groups. You really cherished the idea of operational groups, and I congratulate you for that. So we expect that Spain will continue on the road. And I was also impressed by Marta Conde's presentation because I feel that Spain is very ready to link better with Horizon Europe and multi-actor projects. With such competent NCPs, it will be much easier to make that link between the two policies that can strengthen each other, each from their own side, cross-border groups under the CAP, thematic networks that are built on operational groups on the Horizon side. Then our Article 113 can pay for such interactions. Our co-financing is exceptional. The average co-financing, so the money that EU is giving for each of the measures is 43%. And we are seen bringing knowledge and innovation to test out, to do the transitions that are needed. We have 80% co-financing from the EU, so we're very happy with that. We're also very happy with this opening to almost any kind of topic by covering all the 9 CAP objectives. And what is also new and is very important for the smaller players with a good idea that needs to be developed is that they can get advance payments. Suppose you have a farmers group or an NGO or whatever who wants to start, they don't have big pockets like research organizations, but they can ask advance payments up until 50% so that they can start their project, pay the staff, buy the seed, rent the land that you need or whatever. So this is new. We had a lot of questions about that in the former period, and we're very happy that we have this now. And then the last good news, which was also a long way before we were there. In this period, we could only fully finance, 100% aid, everything which was in the so-called Annex 1, so the really purely agricultural projects. While now you see that we can cover any kind of topic, also the social or the environmental, and there is nobody waiting to put extra money. And we get, with the state derogation, up until 350,000 euro per project, you don't need to make a notification for state aid. Also, if it's non-annex, so not typical agriculture, you can go up until 100% for social or environmental projects where it's really needed and where nobody will put extra money in, and that's a real major achievement that we're very proud on. So again, building and linking all our AKISs, improving them, having more creativity and practice application, that's what we want. And we think that now with the better connectivity and quicker knowledge flows, it will improve a lot, hopefully in the next period. Thanks again for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Van Oost. We keep on listening to thoughts about agricultural knowledge innovation systems with Almudena Justo, who is Director of Innovation and EU programs at Galician Enterprise University Foundation. So, Ms. Justo, you have the floor. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Aida, for the introduction. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see it?
Yeah. Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to explain you briefly our work implementing multi-actor approach methodologies in the agri-food sector to enhance co-creation and also the AKIS current situation in our region, in Galicia region. So first of all, let me introduce ourselves. My entity, FEUGA, the Galician Enterprise University Foundation. We are a private non-profit foundation with more than 30 years of experience fostering technology transfer between university, industry and society. We are a transversal entity, but we have developed a wide experience in innovation management and technology transfer in the agricultural sector. As you can see, we participate in 19 EU projects dealing with agricultural issues and also in 10 operational groups at regional and national level. So in most of these projects, we are in charge of the multi-actor co-creation activities. And for this purpose, we have a multidisciplinary team comprised of more than 20 professionals from complementary profiles, including agricultural engineers, chemical engineers, IP experts, journalists, and so on, with more than 10 years of experience. You can see here our presence in Europe, collaborating with several platforms and other initiatives in the field of agriculture, or with dedicated working groups in the field of agriculture, such as, for example, in Water Europe, or the Association of Internet of Things, that have dedicated working groups with dealing with agriculture. So, as I have said, we are experts in communication, dissemination, intellectual property, and exploitation, with a special focus on open innovation, interactive models. Here you are, our main publications dealing with the multi-actor approach methodology. We have here the links in case you want to have a look to them. So now I'm going to focus in the AKIS, in the new Common Agricultural Policy framework. The four main groups of actions for a successful AKIS strategy are those that you can see here in this slide. To enhance knowledge flows and strengthen links between research and practice, to strengthen all farm advisory services, to enhance the cross-thematic and cross-border interactive innovation, and of course to support the digital transformation of the agricultural sector. So what is the situation in Galicia region nowadays regarding the AKIS implementation? Well, we have, after a deep analysis, we have detected that we have a lack of specific and detailed information on innovation in the agri-food sector at a regional level. In addition, we have a disconnection of current knowledge transfer systems with new forms of business and innovation, with new business models. There's also a lack of connection between the AKIS actors, and we have detected that the knowledge generated does not reach the end users, the farmers. But on the other side, we have some strengths, and those are that a good level of interaction with universities and research centers. There are some public research centers with a good level of interaction with end users. And fortunately, we have a wide network of regional agricultural office and public forest district office with the presence of qualified technicians. And it could be a good starting point for the implementation of the new framework. So, talking about the main barriers to enhance the AKIS in Galicia, well, we have detected that there's a lack of coordination, as I have said, between the advisors and the AKIS actors. We have detected a lack of awareness of the needs of producers by some of the AKIS actors, and also there's a lack of awareness by producers of the opportunities that research can bring to them. In addition, it seems that activities are most focused on immediate needs instead of focus on important ones. And there is also a considerable resistance to change in the agricultural sector. There is also a lack of meeting and discussion groups for knowledge exchange, and a low level of specialization of the farm owners and farm workers. Training will be a key issue here. And as I have said, there's a disconnection between the innovation and the new business models to be developed. And also regarding how to measure the advisory work, there is a necessity of implementing key performance indicators to measure the activities to be implemented in the field of innovation in the agricultural sector. So how could we overcome these barriers? So we need to think out of the box and to co-create and share knowledge. We need to develop an integral plan to facilitate the transition from the linear knowledge transfer model to an interactive model to better support innovation and knowledge exchange. So here you are the main areas and activities to be considered in an integral plan in our region to enhance the agricultural knowledge and innovation systems. We have three main pillars: education, knowledge transfer and farm advice, and communication and networking, supported by a back office to allow the interaction between stakeholders, and a knowledge cloud to gather scientific information. So, well, we are now working in these new plans and to obtain a successful implementation of these new agricultural knowledge and innovation systems. I'm at your disposal for any question you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Justo, for your intervention. Now it's time to keep on moving. We are going to listen to Simona Cristiano, who is researcher at CREA, Council for Agriculture Research and Economic Center for Policies and Bioeconomy. So, Ms. Cristiano, all yours. Thank you very much.
Here we are. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me for this very nice round table. I'm here to talk about the AKIS in Italy and our work, the process of for the AKIS strategic plan to integrate within the CAP strategic plan in Italy. So I must say, in this moment, we are in the phase in which we are just writing down the AKIS strategy plan, and the AKIS strategy design and the implementation. So we are working parallel between the AKIS strategy and the intervention, the design of the interventions. The work is done together with the ministry at the national level and the bulk of the regional administrations, which are already in charge of implementing the measures 1, 2, and 16 of the actual current RDPs. So we are benefiting from the competencies which are already on the field, now applying the current RDPs, and this is facilitated through CREA because CREA, my research institute, is a partner of the National Rural Network, and the National Rural Network is facilitating this multi-level dialogue between the ministry and the regional administrations for preparing the CAP strategic plan, especially for the AKIS strategic plan. So from what are we starting? In Italy, you may understand that we have AKIS multiplicity, I would say, a plurality of AKIS. So AKIS are characterized by diversity, by pluralism, and multi-level AKIS. So we have a diverse AKIS because of the multi-actoriality. For example, we have some AKIS at the territorial level with a different rate of participation of different types of AKIS actors. While in certain AKIS we have, for example, the organic farming AKIS are multi-actor, but they mostly lack of advisory services. While in other AKIS we have more integration of advisory services. The diversity of the AKIS is because of because they reflect the specificities of territories, orographic territories also, because the presence of some sectors and not of some others, for example. So we have really different AKIS across the whole territory in Italy. Different levels of implementation of the AKIS actors, participation of the AKIS actors, so local, regional, and national level. Our AKIS are also characterized by trans-territorial interplays, and this is very nice, increasing also because of the cooperation for innovation measures since, I must say, since the previous programming period, already by measure 1 to 4, and these interplays at cross-regional level were applied. And that multi-level implementation of the AKIS are more characterized by different level, more structured, organized relations, so interconnections between the different levels, instead of informal interplays, let's say. But because of this diversity, these AKIS benefit from cross-fertilization, mostly because of the presence of universities and research institutes and some newcomers like innovation support services, which are participating in different AKIS in different operational groups, for example, in different regions. And so they are somehow cross-fertilizing knowledge among the different AKIS. Overall, these AKIS are characterized by a phase of transition, because they are there are some advisors, for example, they are organizing themselves in networks, in competencies and so on. Different situations are in place nowadays within the AKIS in Italy, and so to say, there are different. There's a transition, a phase of transition of our AKIS, also because of the characteristics of the farmers. There are more younger farmers coming in the sector. In this slide, you can see the situation, the main AKIS actors at the national level, which we observed in 2019 when we conducted the interviews because of the I2Connect, for the proposal of I2Connect project, and the writing of the AKIS report, assessment report. You can see in blue, the characterization, apart from the fact that this visualization is not really helpful in visualizing the connection between the actors, but what we can see here is that there's a plurality of actors. In blue, you have the number of institutional actors, the policymakers, institutions which are in charge of providing a framework and directionality of the main areas of knowledge in within the AKIS. And here we have also we have also another ministry today, the Ministry of the Ecological Transition and the Ministry of Digital Innovation, which were not in place in 2019. So, I mean, we have a plurality of actors which characterize our AKIS at nation, but also and probably more at a territorial level. Knowledge flows. I must say this is something that is changing over time. But what emerged from our interviews, our observation on the field, is that knowledge flows in our AKIS are characterized by more institutional and formalized relations, I would say interconnections at meso and micro level, so at national and regional level, because relations are still shaped by institutionalization of the relations. They are more organized, more relating to the different bodies which are in charge of the different institutional functions and roles. So there are more bilateral relations between the ministries, between the regions and the ministry, the different ministries, and also at the regional level, because the articulation of the institutions at the regional level include that these bilateral relations are replicated at the regional level. So the knowledge flows there are more shaped by the more traditional transfer model of dialogue, let's say. While at local level, sub-regional level, we have more informal interplays. Relations are more multilateral, more personal, not so much formalized. And this is giving more floor to the implementation of circular and interactive knowledge flows models. I must say that because of the territorial level, there's a more system thinking, system view by the partner, the actors, so that they are maturing some identity, some acknowledgement as part of the AKIS, of the local systems of knowledge. And this is very important. This, I don't know if you can see well this slide. This was still from the I2 Connect report and the state of the AKIS in Italy. What you can see here, for example, is about the interplays within the AKIS. In the first graphic, you have the relations between a research institute and universities with the other actors, and what emerge here clearly is their connections mostly with public administrations, of course, because of funding reasons, and with the farmers unions, with the farmers unions. And this because the farmers unions, I must say, are increasingly interacting with the research and universities to provide good quality advisory to farmers. This is very important. I must say that this graphic is also influenced by the fact that at national level, the farmers unions have institutional relations with university and research institute and with the ministry. So this is why also this peak of interaction with them, while the education system is far away from university and research institute. And the same is here in this second radial graphic, where it's clear that the connection between public and private advisory services with the education system is very low. And this is is something that we have to work with through the AKIS strategy plan for the next programming period. Let's talk about our policy framework and governance. We have a multi-level governance. We decide, for example, for the CAP strategic plan, that we will have a national CAP strategic plan, but very similarly applied through regionalized interventions. So very possibly we will have very few national interventions, which are still to be decided. So a multi-level governance of the CAP interventions. The institutional coordination responsibilities are defined by areas of knowledge. So we have the Research and Innovation, Ministry for Research and Innovation, Ministry for the Education. The Ministry for Public Institutions is in charge of, is responsible for the advisors organization, for example.
Excuse me, Ms. Cristiano, just a minute. It's just to ask if you can be more or less short, because we are bad with the schedule. So if you can be a little bit short, thank you very much.
Yeah. This gives us some shortcomings because of the plurality of policy frameworks, poor coordination at political level, at policy between the policy frameworks, scarcity of statistical information, and high level of bureaucracy. Fortunately, we have two bodies which coordinate effectively at least the implementation of the intervention CAP implementation. These are the International Network for Agriculture, Forestry, Agriculture, and Aquaculture, Fisheries Research, and the National Rural Network. They are crucial. For research and innovation, again, we have a plurality of responsible bodies for research and innovation. And on the other side, also a variety of types of research and innovation bodies, private, public, spin-offs from the universities, farm-based organizations which are emerging also to operate, for example, in organic farming, and they apply also research and innovation. But research and innovation overall is characterized by dynamicity of private research at the territorial level, I must say. But on the other side, we have competition for the public funding because of the decreasing of public funding for them, and the increasing awareness and interest around CAP topics, which was not before this programming period. Secondary education, again, a plurality of plurality and numerosity of secondary education. The point here is that they have a high degree of autonomy, and this is, of course, is not very good for the coordination with the other parts of the other components of the AKIS. But on the other side, we have a good variety of vocational education bodies, private, public, financed by different funds. Advisory services, we have a plurality of them. I mean, you should think that associated only for the agronomist, we have 20,000 advisory in Italy, plus you have the veterinarians and the technicians. With a different organizational models, but a low degree of differentiation of methods and tools, and the lack of systemic need assessment on farmers. And this is really bad. But it's the strong point here is that they have a mandatory long life learning, which is because of the professional associations. So we can see here again different private and public advisors. Farmers unions provide advisory services. Farmer-based organizations, we are increasing entering of innovation support services and advisors from other sectors. The farmers are also changing because we have increasing rate of younger farmers, but digital device and plurality of farmer-based and using organizations. The degree of, I mean, the propensity to association is increasing among our farmers. So the last slide, towards the CAP strategy plan, we arrived through different methodological documents, common design and so on, to define some steps. And now we are designing the AKIS strategy. We are together on the same table, the ministry, the Rural Development Network, and the regional staff, technical staff, staffs to design the strategy and the interventions. Here some examples. We will have a common framework at the national level, regionalized intervention, possible national interventions. We will have training for the trainers, advisors, and innovation support services. For example, peer-to-peer training activities to help innovation support services. Learning from each other. The setting up of an overall framework for the demo farms, which are less present in Italy. So we will set up a network of demo farms and tutors for demo farms, activities for demo farms, provision of advisory services and advisory networks, the setup of innovation support services, local hubs of innovation and back office, and desk office for innovation. The role of the CAP network will be crucial, for example, to network with the other projects at European level. As CREA, we are already in some projects at the European level, which are targeted to innovation support services. And we are planning to have also cross-regional operational groups. And so that's all. Thank you
very much, Ms. Cristiano. I would like to remember to the speakers that we want to do some questions when the last speaker finishes. So we have run out of time. We are going to listen now to Mark Gibson, but I ask you please to be as short as you can. So Mark Gibson, Head of Outreach and Innovation at Chagas, the Agriculture and Food Development Authority of Ireland. So Mr. Gibson, whenever you want, thanks.
Okay, thank you, and good morning, everybody, and thank you for the invitation to present at today's event. Just share my screen and just see if you can see that okay. Is that coming through okay?
Yes, we are seeing it.
Okay, great. And I will try to be as brief as possible because I know you're against the clock. So my name is Mark Gibson, and I work in Chagas, and Chagas is the Irish Agriculture and Food Development Authority. We provide research, education and advisory services to Ireland's farming sector. And we're about 75% funded by the Irish government, and the remaining funding is received through research funding and also our fees to our farm advisory clients. So if you can see this okay, it's a very complex diagram, and that is the nature of the AKIS. It is a complex ecosystem of different actors. So this is a graphic that we produced last year to try and describe the relationships between Chagas and the different parts of the Irish AKIS.
Excuse me, Mr. Gibson, you are talking about a graphic, but we are seeing another thing in our screens. We are reading certificate in farming, farm apprenticeship board. I think it's not that the screen you wanted to share.
Yes, I'm sharing a wrong screen. So I will stop sharing and reshare.
We try again.
Okay. Now, can you see this?
Yes, now we can see it properly. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. So now you can see the actual AKIS diagram that we developed last year, and it shows the mosaic of different actors across the Irish AKIS, and obviously farm personnel, farmers, We call them farm personnel because it's more than just the farmer, it's the farm family and also the people that work on the farm as well. So they're very much core to the Irish AKIS. But we want to describe the relationship here between Chagas research, education and advisory services. And obviously we have a very strong reach there. And we see us very much in the role as as our newly appointed director described us, the conductors of the orchestra, that we have all of these different actors across the Irish AKIS. So our role, our mission is to support science-based innovation in the agri-food sector and the wider bioeconomy so as to underpin profitability and competitiveness and sustainability. So I will keep moving onwards, but you can see all of the different actors that we are linked to here from the different aspects. And so this graphic describes those different, all of the different actors involved, the farming media, the professional services, such as the private agricultural consultants, and then we have the farm bodies as well. So the Chagas advisory services, we have 340 frontline advisors based in 12 regions across Ireland, and we connect with 120,000 farmers. 45,000 of those are availing of intensive advisory services, so they're paid clients of Chagas. And then those frontline advisors are supported by 45 subject matter specialists or knowledge brokers. So they are the link between the research and the advisory at a field level. And then looking at the research, we have 250 researchers within Chagas. We have lots of collaborations there with other different universities and research institutes, and obviously other European organizations as well. And we're ranked first for publications and citations compared with Irish universities. So there's a lot of high quality research being produced by Chagas. We have an extensive network of colleges, agricultural colleges across Ireland, and we've recently published a new education vision report, which will reboot the education services that are being delivered across Ireland. So today's brief is really looking at fostering innovation and how we do that in Chagas. We're really trying to drive that integration between the different parts of the organization. So we have, as I mentioned, research, farm advisory, and education. So Chagas, prior to 1988, was the research and the farm and education were separate organizations. So in 1988, Chagas was established, and these different aspects were pulled together under the one umbrella of Chagas. And what we try to do to try and drive that integration between the different parts of the organization, and I have to admit there are still different cultures there between the different parts of the organization because they have different stakeholders, different focus as well. So, but we try to have internal working groups, regular communications, and joint programs, joint funding applications, and joint research programs to drive that integration between our advisors and our researchers and our educators as well. Looking outwards, outside of Chagas, we believe that collaboration is so important to the work that we do. So we have a lot of joint industry programs with our dairy co-ops, our meat factory, obviously operational groups under the European Innovation Partnership are a really important way of pulling together the different actors around different key challenges. And then we would also engage in a number of national campaigns, and we would see that these will be very much in collaboration with the key stakeholders or key actors that are involved, and then joint research initiatives, we would have many of those in place. The Chagas Connected program is a new program that we developed a number of years ago, and its objective is to develop the capacity across the Irish AKIS around knowledge of agriculture and agri-environmental challenges. So we provide training to private consultants, to banks, to solicitors, all of the important actors across the Irish AKIS. And of course, we also provide access to tools and knowledge resources. So the grand challenges, environmental sustainability, I'm sure like many other European countries, is really a major challenge for agriculture. In particular, Ireland, we have a very high percentage of livestock farmers, and therefore methane emissions are a huge challenge for the sector. And we're undergoing, there's a lot of controversy happening in Ireland at the moment around the carbon budgeting process that's happening. But look, we're all familiar with all of these various challenges. And earlier this year, we hosted a UN summit workshop that would fed into the larger UN summit. And one of the conclusions of that summit was that the goal of having a more sustainable food system will require the generation and application of knowledge and innovations to an extent that surpasses what we currently do. So we really need to accelerate our efforts in that area. And some of the key findings from that discussion a round table we had internally here in Ireland was that we really do need to have a shared vision for the agri-food sector that everybody buys into across the whole AKIS, so that we can get that momentum behind the various tackling those goals that we set out. And in Ireland, we do have an agri-food 2030 strategy that helps to guide the overall effort of the sector. We need to engage with the wider farming population through advisory services. So as I mentioned earlier on, Chagas engages intensively with 45,000 clients, and there's private consultants also engage with farmers. But there are a lot of farmers that aren't engaging with any advisory services. So that's a challenge for us to try and broaden that penetration. We need to use more multi-actor approaches in order to improve collaboration, and then broadening the scope of the AKIS to include rural areas and communities and citizens and consumers, because they're groups that we traditionally haven't really connected strongly with, and are obviously really important in the whole value chain, particularly consumers sending those signals back to farm level in terms of the standards of food production that they expect. A number of opportunities that we identified. We need to have a longer term strategy in terms of attracting the best and the brightest people into the Irish AKIS. So we need to be thinking about how can we make agriculture attractive to the best people. We need to have a lifelong learning framework across the AKIS that is easy to access. And this has been a barrier from our experience in the Connected programme for many actors across the Irish AKIS in terms of the cost. Taking a day off work to attend training because they're often commercial outfits. So practicalities like that really need to be understood to get that full engagement. Digital transformation was and it is a buzz phrase at the moment, but it was identified as a key for unlocking that needs to be unlocked within Ireland to have that infrastructure, proper broadband infrastructure across the country to allow and enable people to engage with knowledge. And then they need to develop ways to capture new ideas from the AKIS at any branch, so at any level. So we need to have those networks, those communities to be able to feed back good ideas, and we need to have a pathway for those to be brought along. The central knowledge hub, I think, has been mentioned earlier on, and then to provide an inclusive platform where those ideas that we mentioned earlier on can be connected with capacity to develop the ideas. So the final slide I have here is just a copy of our most recent statement of strategy, and it very much focuses on making sustainability front and center of all Chagas activities. But Chagas Together is the core theme, and the motivation for that is that we want all aspects of the organization working together to bring together the different expertise, the different disciplines for the betterment of the Irish agri-food sector. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks again for the opportunity to present, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gibson. Now I have a couple of questions for the speaker. So if you can please switch on your cameras. Thank you very much. Well, I think we don't have Inge. Inge, There you go. Thank you very much. The first one is precisely for Inge, for Ms. Van Oost. Is the European Commission going to monitor the agricultural knowledge and innovation systems implementation in the following years? Which are the main relevant indicators?
Yeah, definitely. We have already spoken about budget and how important it is if you have a lot of ambition to have budget. So our impact indicator is called share of the budget attributed to knowledge and innovation. So that's perfectly clear, I suppose. And then we also have the new delivery model of the CAP is based on result indicators. And for our AKIS and including digitalization, we have in fact 4 different result indicators that are key. The first one is called enhancing performance through knowledge and innovation. And that counts the numbers of persons that benefit from advice, training, knowledge exchange, participating in operational groups. So that's really covering all kinds of activities related with knowledge and innovation. Then secondly, we also want to do efforts to get these advisors better linked in particular because we move from this old FAST system now to really inclusion of all advisors. And that's why the second result indicator is called linking advice and knowledge systems. And this indicator counts the number of advisors that receive support from the CAP to be integrated within the AKIS. So you saw plenty of different activities that can ensure that. So they will contribute to that result indicator. Then there's one linked to digitalization. And there we count the share of farms that benefit from support to digital farming technology through the CAP. So that can be an operational group on digital. It can be training on digital skills. Any way how farmers are benefiting from CAP support for digital. And in fact, this first indicator I mentioned, the number of persons that benefit from advice, training, knowledge exchange, and operational groups, has also a sub-indicator, which is maybe a bit strange, but that's all to see with the Green Deal. So part of what goes under this R1, first indicator, which is related to environment and climate performance, is counted separately, because we also want to see that that's sufficiently covered. And in fact, it forms part of the whole first indicator, but we do count it also separately to ensure that we have enough efforts in the fields of environment and climate.
Okay, I think you made it clear. Thank you very much. And the other one is for Mr. Gibson. Do you think that the Irish AKIS model could be replicated in other regions around Europe?
Well, I think it's a difficult question to answer because I guess we have such a diversity of structures across Europe. In Ireland, there was a strategic decision taken back in 1988 to pull together the different aspects of, or the key research, education and advisory, pull those together. And now we do have that publicly funded system in place. I think it's, I know I've spoken to colleagues over in the United Kingdom who have lost their public advisory services and have found that they are lacking that connection and that lack of coordination across the AKIS. And I think it's really important that countries have those innovation brokers in place to be able to create those connections. I call it joining the dots of the AKIS, because it really, you need those actors in place. In Ireland, we have a network of advisory regions, 12 regions, and they represent a number of counties in Ireland. And we have a manager in each of those regions who would work very closely with regional stakeholders. And I think that's a really important part, is that having that regional connection. And look, we've more work to do in that area. I want to see more activity happening at a regional level, because we need to detect those regional differences, because there are different geographic challenges, and there are different political setups and priorities in different areas as well. So I think that bottom-up approach, I know we're all probably tired of hearing that phrase, but it really is so important that we need to have that bottom-up approach, but having those platforms and pathways for those ideas. And if one part of if we had a meeting with our managers last week, for example, and there were a number of common issues that were coming up, so we were very quickly able to put in place some measures or put some projects in place to actually address those issues. So that to me it's about the communications, and it's about having that coordination at a national level. And I always use I think it's not a bad analogy, the conductor of the orchestra, that we have so many different actors, have so many valuable things to contribute, but there is that need for coordination, and you need a neutral actor to be able to deliver that coordination.
Thank you very much. We ran out of time, but I would like to know if any of the speakers wants to add something or to make any comments. Okay, so thank you very much, Inge van Oost, Simona, Cristiano, Mark Gibson, and Almudena Justo for being with us today in this roundtable.